I find that often people believe that once they learn how to regulate their nervous systems, that they are just going to feel so good all of the time. And that's really not the goal of learning about the nervous system and learning how to regulate your nervous system. Hi, my loves. Welcome to Body Wisdom, your podcast for all things related to nervous system regulation, feeling grounded in your body, and improving your relationships. I'm your host, Courtney Beyer, a holistic occupational therapist and yoga instructor based in Southern California. I am incredibly passionate about helping women connect to their mind, body, and soul to heal from trauma and truly thrive in their lives. If that sounds like you, you are in the right place. So grab your headphones and let's dive into today's episode. All right, we are back for another episode of the Body Wisdom Podcast. I am so excited to be here with you today because we are going to be talking about my favorite topic ever, which is the nervous system. And today I want to share with you all that you need to know about your nervous system. And I'm going to be covering 3 topics that you might not know about the nervous system that you will find really helpful so that you can invite more ease into your life and your relationships. So let's get started. I have been obsessed with the nervous system for the longest time. As you might know, I'm an occupational therapist. When I was in grad school, I became obsessed with the nervous system. And it all started when I was going through my pediatric rotations and I was learning all about how to facilitate safety and regulation in a child's nervous system. And it was amazing because I got to learn from some of the most badass occupational therapists out there that are truly remarkable and have so much groundbreaking research out there. But anyways, I digress. When I was learning about all of that and learning how to help a child find regulation in their bodies, I realized how dysregulated my own nervous system was. And it got me really thinking about how much I see a lot of nervous system dysregulation in the world. And so that was way back in like 2013. And that's when I really became kind of obsessed with the nervous system and wanting to know about it and wanting to know about how to support myself as well as others around me. So it's been over a decade in the making of me being really obsessed with the nervous system and wanting to educate others about it. So that's what we're going to dive into today. Before we get into the 3 topics of what you really need to know about your nervous system that I think will be so helpful for you, I do want to give a very brief background on what exactly the nervous system is, because I do find that many of you are very interested in learning how to support your body, how to find more ease in your life and your relationships, but you might not really know exactly what the nervous system is. And you might have been seeing it a lot on Instagram, seeing all about the nervous system, the vagus nerve, finding regulation, but you're still a little bit confused on what exactly the nervous system is. So I'm here to first talk about that. So a lot of people believe that our nervous system is actually just our brains. However, your nervous system is not only your brain, but also your spinal cord and all of the nerves that are interwoven throughout your body. And it's really important to know that our nervous system is shaped mostly when we are babies. So actually when you are in your mother's womb, all the way into early adulthood. And our nervous system can be shaped throughout the rest of our lives. However, that is when the bulk of your nervous system is really shaped. It's important to know that so that we can have a lot of compassion and understanding of our behaviors as adults. So all this information is just so helpful to know so that you can have more understanding on how to best support your unique body and your unique nervous system. And I know that you have probably heard of the vagus nerve. That is a really important component of the nervous system. It's the longest cranial nerve in your body. It innervates a lot of essential organs in your body. So it controls how you swallow, how you breathe, your heart rate, things like that, that are very important. And it's important to know that your body is sending signals through that vagus nerve to your organs, but your organs are also sending messages to your brain. So it's a two-way street in your body. When I work with my clients, I use a very important theory. I use the Polyvagal Theory that was created by Dr. Stephen Porges, and his theory explains that there's actually a third response pattern, which is the social engagement system. And I don't want to go too deep into the polyvagal theory because that is something that we can talk about another day. But it's important to know that your nervous system actually has three response patterns. And this theory, it just makes so much sense. And a lot of people really resonate with it. And we are always flowing in and out of these response patterns. So we have the most primal response pattern, which is the dorsal vagal shutdown. That's the freeze, fawn response pattern. And then we have the sympathetic mobilized response pattern. That's going to be more of the fight, flight, reactive mode. And then at the top, we have the social engagement system, which is when you feel good, when you feel relaxed in your body. You don't have to feel perfect, but you feel good enough that you can have a conversation with a loved one. You can sit down and enjoy your meal. You're kind of operating at a level where you feel peace and ease in your life. And so we are always flowing in and out of these different states. And it's important to know that your body is always ebbing and flowing throughout these three different states. And it's not like your nervous system is just on or off. It's always responding and reacting to your environment. So first up, I wanted to talk about how the goal of nervous system regulation is not to feel good all of the time. So we see this everywhere on the internet, and a lot of people are talking about nervous system regulation and how they just want to feel less stress and more ease in their lives. And I've seen it everywhere. And it's a beautiful thing that this has really gotten so popular because it's so important. I find that often people believe that once they learn how to regulate their nervous systems, that they are just going to feel so good all of the time. And that's really not the goal of learning about the nervous system and learning how to regulate your nervous system. There's truly never going to be any sort of perfection that we can find while we are on this earth. And that I think is really helpful to know. The goal of nervous system regulation is to create resiliency within the body so that we can move through the ebbs and flows of life with a little bit more grace. The goal of learning how to regulate your nervous system is to find peace with experiencing life on that up and down ladder that I was speaking to earlier, finding peace with knowing that sometimes we might feel a little shut down. We might feel a little bit mobilized and reactive, and we're not always going to feel perfect all of the time. And we're simply just not designed to. Nervous system regulation is really to find a rhythm with your body so that as soon as you recognize that you are shut down or you're getting really reactive, that you can pause and participate in behaviors that are going to support your body to bring yourself back to a place of feeling ease. And sometimes that looks like bringing yourself back to a place of just feeling good enough. I always tell my clients that the goal is to not bring yourself back up into this mode of where you're just like a chatty Cathy and you just feel so great. But the goal is to bring yourself back to feeling okay enough. Because when you feel okay enough, that one little glimmer of hope of feeling good starts to multiply and turn into feeling really good. So it's really important to know that it's not just about feeling perfect all of the time. It's about how much acceptance can you have for meeting your body where you are currently at, and then resourcing yourself so that you can feel at your optimal level and you can move pretty easily up and down that ladder. The next thing that I wanted to talk about today is that everybody's nervous system is extremely unique. There is not a one size fits all approach to nervous system regulation. And that's why it's really important to be really discerning about who you choose to work with when it comes to, like, if you want to hire a therapist, nervous system coach, or you want to enroll in somebody's program, is really make sure you're discerning of who exactly you are looking to support you, because simply having a one size fits all approach is just not going to work when it comes to supporting the collective. As you know, none of us were raised in the same household. We all come from very diverse backgrounds. It's important to recognize that nervous system regulation is going to look different on every single person. That is something that I feel really proud as being an occupational therapist, is that I am able to really make sure that I am tailoring and customizing all of my treatment plans to be the best fit for each unique nervous system. Because what works for me or what works for, one of my clients is going to look very different from what works for you. Something that is really regulating to me might be really dysregulating to somebody else. So maybe you find a lot of regulation by going to a coffee shop, and you like to take your laptop and you like to work at a coffee shop because you just feel like it helps you drop into your body, and you kind of like, the chatter of people around you. You like the background music, and that kind of helps you get into your zone of genius so that you can move throughout your workday. That might be very dysregulating for somebody else's nervous system. Somebody else might go to a coffee shop to try to work, and they might not be able to filter out all of the conversations, all of the voices, and they might find it really dysregulating to be in a coffee shop that smells like a lot of coffee and baked goods and things like that. They might find that really dysregulating. So you can look at so many different examples of what might be regulating for somebody and what might be dysregulating for somebody else. And that's just because we are all so unique. And I really do love to celebrate the differences that I see throughout the world, and to really remind everyone that we do live in a world that kind of tries to fit us into these little boxes, but we are all just so much more diverse and different than that. And truly, what is going to work for your body to find a sense of balance and homeostasis is going to look so different from your friends, maybe even your sibling or your parents. So this is where we can find radical acceptance, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. I find that a lot of my clients, when they start to get into this work and when they start to open their minds up to their own nervous system, they start to have so much more acceptance for their parents, their spouses, and even their children. And they also start to recognize when their spouse or children are really dysregulated and how they can help support them to find a little bit more ease. You also might be asking, well, what exactly does it look like to be dysregulated? And again, that's kind of what I talked about in the beginning of the podcast, but just to add to that, when you're feeling dysregulated, your body is either going to want to shut down and go into that more freeze response, or your body might be really reactive and go into more of that fight or flight. And something I really love about the Polyvagal Theory, they have an amazing Instagram page and a lot of resources on their Instagram page, but they also recently came out with a graphic that has been tremendously helpful for my clients that demonstrates that there can also be blended states of the three response patterns. So sometimes people might think, I feel frozen, or I feel relaxed and like I don't really want to do anything, but I still feel good. So that can be a blend of the shutdown state and the social engagement system. So again, if you want to go deeper into this with me, I definitely recommend that because it's so helpful to really understand your body. It can be really helpful even to just educate yourself on the polyvagal theory. The third thing that I wanted to touch on today about your nervous system is that your nervous system can be reshaped. Your nervous system can even be reshaped as an adult. And that is so cool to know because some of us might think that, oh, this is just how I have always been. This is how I've been as a child. This is how I was in college. And there's just not really any changing. But that is actually not true. So in the 90s, they determined that neuroplasticity is actually a thing. So neuroplasticity is a term that describes how the neurons in your brains can create different pathways. And that is so cool to know because we are never stuck. We are never stuck in a behavior that maybe we don't like or that we really desire to change. There's always going to be room for growth, evolving, and changing because of neuroplasticity. So, when you are an adult and you're noticing that your nervous system is mostly dysregulated throughout the day, you can learn how to regulate yourself and feel so much more peace in your life. And you don't have to feel stuck. I like to think of our brain as a big ball of sand, and there's rivers flowing through your brain or that big ball of sand. The more that you are doing a behavior, the more that river is going to get formed in your brain and create a really deep groove in your brain. So when you start to learn a new behavior, you start to create that new river. And so at first, it's going to be really shallow and it's just going to be a small little groove in your brain. But the more that you engage in that behavior, say, for example, a behavior that brings you more peace than stress, that river is going to just get deeper and deeper, and it's just going to be an automatic thing. So, in the same breath, when you already have a river in your brain that is really deep, sometimes it can feel really difficult to change that behavior. So that's when it all starts with coming back to your body and really learning how to best support your unique nervous system. So again, because we know so much about neuroplasticity now, and before the 90s, we didn't even really know a whole lot about neuroplasticity. There were some doctors that kind of had some theories, but it wasn't until the 90s that we learned that our brain can create those new neural pathways. And this is something that was so cool when I was working as a traditional occupational therapist in the hospital setting. I worked with so many people that had spinal cord injuries, brain injuries, strokes, and being able to witness how they were able to learn from being paralyzed to learning how to walk again was all due to neuroplasticity and creating those new pathways in the brain. And the same thing applies to when you desire to change a behavior or when you desire to find safety in your body, you can create those new neural pathways and reshape your brain, how your brain operates. So it always comes back to safety. It always comes back to learning how to support your unique nervous system because it's going to look vastly different from you compared to everyone around you, and learning how to best support yourself so that you can operate in this world at the capacity that you deeply desire to. So maybe that means desiring to feel less reactive in your relationship so you can hold all of those sensations in your body and not be reactive to your partner when something doesn't go your way is so important. Same thing if you find that you are in more of like a shutdown state when there's conflict and you feel like you really avoid it like the plague. And when you can find that level of safety to help yourself move forward and speak up, to place boundaries, to communicate from a grounded place in your relationship, that can be immensely helpful. And it is also possible. Just a little recap of everything that we talked about. We went over the nervous system and polyvagal theory. We also talked about how the goal of nervous system regulation is not to feel perfect or good all the time. It's also about allowing yourself to feel into the negative emotions as well. We talked about how everybody is so unique. Our nervous systems are all so different. And it's so important to learn how to best support your unique nervous system. And then we also talked about how our nerve systems can continue to be reshaped throughout our lives and nothing is ever set in stone. Okay, my loves, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I really love hearing from you all about how the show resonated with you and would love it if you sent me a DM on Instagram to @herbodywisdom to keep the convo going. If you are loving the show, it would mean so much to me if you left a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you next time.